Yeah.
What are you doing, Gilly?
Oh yeah.
You alright? What are you doing?
Well, off to Fleetwood tomorrow. So getting all the stuff ready for that, all the hotel stuff, the travel itinerary, finalising that, and of course a bit later on we'll get the squad details so that we can finish it all off, get them all ready. Can have a little bit of food on the coach and making sure all the arrangements are ready for the players to go and hopefully put in a performance as fine as we saw on Tuesday night.
And obviously you do all that and then sort of don't travel up with them, so you've got to make sure you've got it all right before they leave.
Yeah, well, it's easier nowadays with all with all the links, the phones, the online and stuff. We can do pretty much everything from here, and it's kind of useful at times to have someone back at base camp just in case something gets forgotten.
Let's take it all the way back to many years ago where it all began for you. Tell us how you ended up here and the journey you've been on, because it's been a fair few years and quite a ride. Yeah,
it has. Way back, 20 years ago now, I left my previous existence and I'd gone travelling, and when I came back, I mean, what my aim was to do, I'd had enough of doing what I was doing. I wanted to do something I really liked. I wanted to get into the world of sport, and I never imagined at that time that I would end up back in my hometown of Exeter City at my football club. But it's funny how things work out. But I was back home, and we had all the issues back from the Russell and Lewis fallout, and the fans were basically pitching in and helping out, and that's in the end how we survived. And I was just one of them. I volunteered. My mum was living back down here. I was up in Bristol at the time. Mum was back down here, so I had a bed for the night if I needed it. So I came down, started volunteering, and stupid fool that I am, I kind of like never got away.
So you're still here, and obviously in those 20 years you've experienced the highs, the lows, and everything in between. I mean, you must. I mean, you're part of the furniture, really, aren't you?
I always said at the time, I as long as I felt that I was doing something constructive for the club, and that we were going forward equally as a club as well. I thought as long as we were going in the right direction, I'd be happy to be on board. And it was tough. It was a lot of firefighting in those early days. But we got through it. It was the old, we survive a day, then we would survive a week, and then we survive a month, and then we survived a year. And it was really tough back then. We were really counting the paper clips. It was that bad. But it gradually improved, and in some ways, perversely, going down to the conference at the time possibly helped us, because we went down a tier in football, and we from struggling at the bottom of the league, we were actually sort of in a smaller pool, if you like, and we're winning matches. And having put in probably about 3 months of hard graft before we saw any football, when we started to win matches in the conference, that actually rewarded all those fans who've been so fantastic and helpful in supporting the club, and they actually got a return for that sort of investment of time and energy. And but having said that, it was still tough. We all wanted to get back into the league, and as you know, in the conference, you've got just one promotion spot automatically, and then one via the playoffs, and that's a very narrow gap. But it took us 5 years, but we managed it, and football wise, things have actually been pretty good. We haven't had too many lows since then, and in the last 20 years, those 20 years have been out of the ordinary compared to the previous, however, 80 to 90 years of Exeter City's football existence. We've done some amazing things, and it's been fantastic to be part of. Trip to Old Trafford, we've been to Anfield, we've been to Wembley, we've won promotions, we've had open top bus tours, we've had that Brazilian link, a trip to Brazil and the Brazilian Masters over here, and then a fantastic promotion again last year. It's all kept going and kept everybody's sort of interest, I think, high in Exeter City. It hasn't, in those 20 years, we haven't had too much of a lull from a football perspective. But even if we haven't on the pitch or off the pitch, we've had the new stand, the Stano stand, the away end. Everything as the club has gradually come together as we could afford to do it, and we've done things in the right way, in my opinion. And it's been fantastic to be part of that journey.
I guess in terms of people inside the club, you've probably seen the transformation more than anyone. I mean, there's few people around within the club that have been here for as long as you. I mean, let's start with the training ground. Just tell us about your old office.
It was a scout type hut, which was arguably temporary in the 1970s. So you have to expect after 40 odd years, it was showing signs of wear. The structure, in fairness, was actually quite good, but it was just the bits around the edge that weren't, and it was rather gappy and should we say a tiny bit chilly. The lads were all right. I mean, they had to go outside into the cold, but you know, I was sitting inside working at my desk, and particularly during COVID when we had to keep the windows and doors open for obvious reasons. Suddenly you realise that your feet had frozen and you couldn't move them, so I was constantly up and jogging up and down the corridor just to warm up. So to go from that, it was don't get me wrong, they were lovely and homely, and it was ours. And you make a home with what is yours, of course. But to make a step 10 feet away to my left was where I used to be. To make a jump to the right into these new facilities, it's just an incredible step forward.
I think you're probably one of the only people in the training ground building that's actually downsized. But you are on your own in here now, rather than sharing that previous office.
Yes, yeah. It's great. I have my own sort of personal heating and aircon system, so I really don't mind. Yes, I did have a bigger office, but this is absolutely fine. And I've got all the storage I need. I've got the desk. I've got the equipment. I've got the view out, so I can see who's coming into the training ground, and I'm right next door to the canteen.
Ideal. And you've still got your exercise ball as a chair. Talk us through that.
Oh, it's just everybody's got a bally back, it seems, nowadays. You all slouch in your chairs at home watching the telly and in the car. It's just a little way of just trying to keep myself a little bit more upright rather than resting on the back of the chair or the arms of it. Just a little bit. Every little helps, as they say. Keeps those back a little bit straighter.
Tell us about your role when a new player signs for the club. They obviously see that they sign contracts and they do the media bits of us, and they meet the manager, but so you play quite a significant role in new players joining the club and sort of all the paperwork that has to be filled in. Yeah,
that's just essentially my job, to make sure that all the technical stuff is done. Gary and Marcus does in the training, in the transfer windows rather. Marcus is on the phone. He's doing negotiating. I've got several forms open where you have options, etc. So I've generally got several screens open. We're waiting for the nod, and it's my job to make sure that the contracts, the agent forms, the registration forms, everything is done and submitted to the EFL and the FA for approval, and in time for them to play on the Saturday, which can be a challenge. And in the transfer window, that the guys at the EFL and the FA have got 92 clubs at least who are in exactly the same boat, trying to get their player authorised, and of course their player's the most important. So it's a bit of nail-biting time, hoping that it's done, and you wait for the email, and you hesitate to phone them and put them under more pressure, but you wait for that email to come through to say it's all gone through. And then everything's ready for Saturday. That's the aim, that's my aim, to get the players registered fully and to get them out onto the pitch at 3 o'clock, all tickety-boo.
I imagine over the years you've got some fairly stressful or perhaps funny deadline day stories that you've had to deal with.
I suppose the funniest one was good old Marcus in August, at the end of August this past season. That was quite stressful because we had lots of irons in the fire, but nothing really started on deadline day until about 5:30, 6 o'clock in the evening on the deadline day, with the deadline at 11 o'clock. So we had all sorts of thoughts and nothing was really moving. It was waiting for a lot of corks to come out of the bottle at other ends, and then everything flowed from there. It's like a chain in your house, but with a lot quicker movement time. And so we sat there, and it was, he was on the phone constantly. I had, again, as I say, all my screen options open, not just for one player, but about 5 or 6 or so. It was Alfie Pond was moving to somewhere, and at that stage we didn't quite know exactly which one was which offer was going to be the best and be accepted. So you have any number of player options per player, and if you add up to 4 or 5 players, that's incredibly testing time. But when the green light is given, then it opens up everything, and then DocuSign, wonderful sort of tool nowadays, and it's acceptable by the EFL and FA. You can get things signed without people being present, and those signatures are acceptable as long as they're in that electronic form. But you still got that deadline, and it's still a bit of a rush. So having had that real mental torture up to where they mounted to 11:30, 11:45, Marcus then drives home, and in the middle of the road there's a wallaby.
Yeah.
And he's very blind there was, and we're told that there might be some wild wallabies around, but your guess is as good as mine as to whether Marcus was just delirious after all the day's frantic action or not.
We did actually have that one confirmed, that there are some wild wallabies around the Taunton area, so turns out it was right. But obviously you're not just based here on a home match day, you're based at SJP. What do you get up to on a home match day? Because I don't know, while we've all seen you, there's a lot of running around trying to sort stuff out and get sort of different bits to different places.
There's still bits I do from my former role when I was based up at the stadium. I still do a lot of lists and notes for people, such as the match announcer. So it's just, again, there's a lot of finalising the tickets, any ticket sort of inquiries that come from me, such as scout stuff and things. Making sure that people who need the lists have got them, and there's clearly it's like a little jigsaw. Until it's finished, you can't really dish it out. But once so some information comes in pretty late, so it's by natural, that is. There's nothing wrong with that. But once they're in, get those lists printed off, draw and passed out, and allow people then to get on with their job. I haven't, clearly, because I'm not involved on the commercial side now. I don't deal with the hospitality and the boxes, so it's slightly different match day. It's more, as you can imagine, being the secretary, focused on the playing side a lot more. So I meet up with the match officials, check both teams, meet the kit man, and check that the away team are okay. Anything to do with our guys, and match officials, make sure they arrive, greet them, show them around, have a chat with them, and team sheets. And once team sheets are done, have a quick chat, and it's generally not far off from 3 o'clock, and then sit down and watch the match and hope nothing happens which requires my attention.
And of course, when needed, you fill in on the microphone as well. Although you do bring your sort of unique style to it. I've never been so interested in the half-time scores from Armenia before, but there we are.
Well, that's it, just try to keep people on their toes. It's interesting to see who's listening. You throw in all the regular scores and then just pluck one out of the air from wherever. You never know, if there was one fan from Armenia in, it would make their day.
Something else that I think, when I first started here, I always used to enjoy watching you sort of have a struggle with the old scoreboard between the away end and the Selco stand, and I think you took great pleasure in that new one, the big screen going up, because you didn't have to smash those buttons anymore, did you?
We're talking about the training ground building here being from the 70s. The scoreboard, in fairness, wasn't too far off from there. It was of the ilk of Pong, in terms of its computer sort of history. It was a unique scoreboard, really. The controls were rickety. No one else would do it. No one else wanted the responsibility. The trouble was, very briefly, that when you pressed the go button, you didn't know if it had actually started until 1 minute was reached, and it clocked over to 1 minute. And if the connection didn't work for whatever reason, then you got to a minute into the game and it was still at 0, and then people like Matt Taylor used to turn around and look at you and say, "What's going on, Gilly?" So I used to try and guess when the referee was going to blow his whistle and start it early, then if it didn't work for whatever reason, I at least had a second go at it and I wouldn't be that far out. But suffice to say, that stress of a match day is now gone, thankfully, and any stress that is related to the scoreboard is over to you guys.
Thankfully not me, and at least that other one, the old one, couldn't go to -1, which I know has been done before. I think that sort of is it's sort of a metaphor or a signifier of the club as a whole, really, just looking at how far we've come from the scoreboard, the stand, the training ground, and you've seen the whole journey, haven't you?
Yeah, it's true. Back then, back along, we had to make do with stuff. It was Exeter City. We had to. We could, as I say, we could only do things when we could afford to, and we've done it in the right way. We've done it patiently, and things come to those who wait. But the structure of the club is sensationally different to what it was. We're so different now. We had to be what we were back then. There's nothing wrong with that. But the success of those times and our hard work has paid off, and the club has moved forward. But I say not from A to Z. We're going through B and C and all the way through when and at the right pace. And let's hope that continues. We're in a decent shape, in my opinion, as a club. A very good shape on and off the pitch. And let's hope that we can continue to evolve.
What's the favourite part of your job?
I have to say, I do. Having from being from Exeter and an Exeter City fan, and always wanted to be a footballer. I love being involved with the football side. I can't deny that. It's everybody's dream. I was never good enough as a footballer to make it, but you never give up, and I keep myself fit, and I'm always there waiting just in case Gary looks up and there's a stand and waves and says, "Gilly, it's your moment. We're a little bit short. Jamal's got to go off. Would you mind going in goal?"
I mean, we have all seen you in the staff kickabout though, so it's not a bad option to bring off the bench.
I'm there if required. I'll do anything for the football club. Mad fool that I am.
And this morning when we came in, there was an interesting game, let's say, going on in the gym. The 3-minute plank amongst the staff. Whose idea was that?
Well, I joined in at the end. They've been doing sort of a challenge throughout the month of March, and the culmination was to do a 3-minute plank at the end of March, and huge forfeits, as I understand it, were to be paid if anybody sort of dropped out before that 3-minute mark. And you could probably tell the motivation, money or loss of money would gave people, as there was a pretty good effort from the lads. I thought I'd just join in just to see if I could do it. Really, I hadn't been part of the. I didn't want to lose too much money during the month, so I thought I'd just come in at the end there. And fortunately, I managed to hang on for 3 minutes as well. But yeah, a little bit of fun that goes on there. Everybody, challenges each other. A little bit of sort of social interaction, a little bit of jollying along, a bit of banter, as they say. But sadly, no one dropped out.
That Mike did 5, didn't he?
He's still going.
He's still going.
Yeah. He said we popped down after training to see how he was getting on.
Thanks very much, Gilly.
My pleasure.